Hello, everybody. Final time for today, you lucky people. It's my music. And today I'm going to be talking to, I'd started speaking to, so last week, and then all hell broke loose on my end, which I apologize to her profusely for. And we just had to finish it. But here we are, back again. We're going to do it properly now. This is the Silent Rival version of this. And this will be happening straight after this.
Keep on, don't stop. Keep on, don't stop. Keep on, don't stop. Keep on, don't stop.
When you have a band name that starts with silent, you just feel like you need to bring everything down low, like really low, like that.
Until you actually hear it, and then
and then lean in, and then it's like, ah, yeah, absolutely, yeah. It's got that feel to it, hasn't it? It has got that. It has got that feel of surprise. Who is the rival?
It changes all the time.
Who is it today? You see, it's a good question, isn't it?
That is a really hard question. You're the rival, Graham.
I'm the rival today. Oh, now listen. Before we were rudely erupted in a non-silent way last week, you were just beginning to tell me how you all met, so, and how the band sort of evolved. So let's start there again.
Okay. Joz, the guitarist, and Yutaka, the bass player, were in a band before Silent Rival, and then Joz and I were in a band after their band, but also before Silent Rival. And when we went into the studio actually to record for the band that Joz and I were in, two of our bandmates stopped being in the band. One of them quit, and one of them was fired. So and one of the one that quit, he was one of the songwriters. So when we got into the studio, and we were working with Matt Wallace, and he's very he's involved in the songwriting process. He starts the production like from a songwriting level. So,
well, like a jam level, or like is it literally let's play around with ideas, or is it bring me what you've got and then let's piece that together?
A little bit of both. So what we brought was just like a melody voice note in our phone for just like a chorus or something like that. They were very incomplete, and then we would work around that.
Yeah. So when we're talking about incomplete, we're talking about like da 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 da.
Totally.
And literally that, and it's like that's the song so far.
Like 10 seconds of that.
It's a great starting point, because actually there's not a lot there. So that encourages quite a lot of creative energy to go into that. Yeah. And how would that then develop from that?
I don't know. It was so long ago that we did our first album, and it was a bit of a scramble in the sense that we did have a process, but the process had another member in it that was no longer there. So it was, Joz and I have very different musical influences, although we do overlap in a lot of ways. We still have a lot of differences. So for the two of us to out of the blue have to start figuring everything out without there being that um that thing that was there to fill in the blanks.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, it was just hard because I mean now we have a process. So now we
Right.
just do the process.
Okay. Talk us
Um,
through the process that happens
yeah.
then.
And then it was like, well, we have this time booked with Matt Wallace, so we have to figure it out. And
Yeah. Did Matt Wallace help you in that first experiment with this? Did he help you learn something that you could then take into the process?
Probably. Again, it was like so long ago, it'd be hard for me to like
Yeah.
put my finger on anything tangible, but at this point I feel like whatever we got out of it is just in our DNA now.
Yeah. You kind of want to you moved on
Yeah.
from there. You don't really want to go back to there. And the process that, as you say, that you've got a process now. So how does that work? Where does that start and finish now?
Where does it start? I think sometimes it still does start with like a 10-second voice note. And then other times it just starts with chords. And then
And is it your 10-second voice note mainly, or
no,
no? It can be anybody's.
Mhm.
Cool.
And then every now and then there's like a wild card, like one of us will just be in the mood to write a certain type of song. Like there's an itch that we need to scratch,
Yeah, yeah. And when that happens, does someone typically come along with a whole song? Does that happen where like someone's like gone, do you know what?
No, we don't do that anymore. We used to, but now we're both involved in the early stages.
All the way through.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
if we have an idea of a type of song we want to write, it can be anything. It could be like a concept for the song or a certain type of melody.
Yeah.
We'll still be working on it together from the beginning.
It's interesting. So in that respect, how do you make music that is, in the one hand, very structured and has a sort of, a set of aims and outcomes attached to it, because you want it to be this, or you want it to be that, and you have a very clear picture in your mind, but you still make it sound authentic? Do you know what I'm saying? Because if you've got a very clear idea, I want to make a really great pop tune that has these kind of elements to it. Yeah. How do you stop it from just sounding manufactured, and when in the final mix of that, it actually sounds like, oh, where the hell did that come from? Yeah.
I don't know. I guess that would be the production. That would be Joz's part of it. Because he's been producing our new stuff now. So the last 2 singles that we released are produced by Joz. And I think it would be that. I think for him, I don't want to speak for him too much, but I just think it's easier for him to put his stamp on it than it is to not.
Yeah.
Because it's that much a part of what he does.
And you said that last time, there's this Jaws stamp, which is like above everything else.
I mean, the above everything else thing would be something up to the listener to decide. I would just say that it's distinctive.
You've got to have a distinctive thing, right?
I
You
mean,
know?
I think so, but it sometimes doesn't happen. I think also people get used to hearing a certain thing, and then when they hear something
Yeah.
that's different or something that has, like, a point of view, they think that there's something wrong with it or that you didn't know you were doing it that way.
Do you think actually some bands, in aiming to try and sound different from themselves time and time again and kind of lose that stamp, end up kind of losing themselves? Because let's face it, some of the greatest bands in the world, like U2, etc., have a signature stamp in terms of sound. They will go around that signature stamp. They will sonically play in one area or another, etc. But it always is going to sound like U2,
Right.
always, right? And in
Yeah.
a way, that just brings the listener always back to it as well, because it's like, well, that's U2, right? That's the edge. That guitar, that's the edge. That's Bono. You know, you can't mistake that voice. That's him. You know, and however far they kind of tease around that, it's still got that element to it where it sounds like U2. And you just think some people maybe possibly experiment too far, and then suddenly like it's like I don't recognize that at all, and now I've got to try and work out where this fits. It works for some artists, it doesn't work for others. Yeah. So
Yeah. I'm thinking there was a time Train did that. I'm not really like a Train person. I just remember there being an interview on NPR or something about it. And then they apologized to their fans or something, and they were like, "We'll never do that again." And then they kind of like went back to doing what they do. Um, but I think for us, because not a lot of our songs sound the same. And I think genre is just like such a weird thing of the past. And also because we're both so widely influenced, it's like hard for us to imagine just doing one type of song over and over again. Um, and in the past, actually, we've gotten some like pushback about that with the Suits, that it's harder to market when our songs don't really sound the same, and then if somebody likes one song and they go listen to the library, they see that the other songs aren't like the one that they like, et cetera, et cetera.
mm.
But,
But you feel you can hear that linking
I hear
connective
the
piece.
linking thing, and also I don't care what's easy to market. And,
I love that. And
uh
why should
and
you?
why should I? Like, don't complain to me that your job is hard because of it. I don't wanna hear it. I don't care.
Yeah.
So, I think especially also because a lot of, and I'm not saying this in a bad way, a lot of bands that I love write a certain mood within a certain mood too. And
Mm.
I can't do that because sometimes I know Jaws can't. I mean, sometimes we're happy, sometimes we're not, and we wanna be writing and creating during all of it. Um, so
I
there's a
like that. I like that about you. I like the fact that actually your music is full of surprises in a way,
Thanks.
and that's good. I think
Yeah.
that's refreshing. You
So
know.
we've been accused of being all over the place, but I think that demonstrates a certain level of like a certain level of proficiency that
Mm.
like, you don't necessarily know. if they're just one trick ponying it.
Yeah. No,
It's
I think it is also the realm of a great producer.
Oh, well, that would be Joz. I think
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
he's out. Some
I
of my
think that,
favorite artists have been also all over the place. Granted that like they are very well known, so they can do whatever they want and it's going to be easy to market
yeah,
regardless.
like who are we thinking?
Like for example, Rihanna, like she does a lot of different styles, especially her last album, which was freaking 20 million years ago because she hasn't done anything new recently, but it was just one album of like totally all the different styles, electric guitar in one song, like folky, quiet songs, like everything. Classic,
It
classic
was
songs, everything.
it felt to me that felt like a deconstruction album. It felt like she was primarily concerned with her voice more than anything, and not just having that one kind of pop voice, but
Right.
expressing her different voice or the
Yeah.
different voices that she has as a singer, and then
Yeah.
finding a backdrop for that,
Yeah.
which is great.
Yeah.
Which yeah, and definitely it confused a load of people because it's like, oh, this isn't Umbrella.
Yeah.
No,
Exactly.
it's
And
not
then I
Pom de
think
Replay. Yeah,
sometimes you write a song not knowing what is going to become of it. And then when it comes time to produce it, especially with the vocal, like you want to do the song justice, and singing it the way that you sung all the other songs like might not be the way to do it, you know?
no,
There's
absolutely.
like just going back to Rihanna, there's a song on Anti that she's drunk in the song. She's singing about like how she's calling some dude in the middle of the night after drinking too much. And she's pushing her chest voice really high, like it gets a little shouty, and it just makes it feel like she's stumbling around drunk. Like she wouldn't normally sing it that way. She would be mixing at that in that part of her register, but she
Yeah,
wants it to sound like rough and uncontrolled.
yeah. She doesn't want it to sound polished.
Yeah,
Stay away from the auto tune and everything else.
yeah,
And yeah, you've got to admire that when an artist wants to use the personality part of their voice as well as just their,
technical.
the technical perfect part of what they're known for within their voice as well.
Yeah, I mean, even technically, there are technical things to do that give it a certain effect.
Yeah, it's
So
actually quite hard.
it's actually quite hard.
Yeah, it's quite
It's a
hard.
lesson
It's
learned
quite
every day.
it's quite hard to sing. I'm not going to say sing badly. It's quite hard to sing that expressively sometimes.
Yeah, well, it's definitely not badly because she's still on key,
Yeah,
or on and in time and singing with emotion. It's just she's using certain parts of her voice.
yeah.
Um,
Sorry, I wasn't making reference to her there. I was just
oh
saying.
no,
But yeah, I think sometimes when artists stretch their voice, some people go, "Oh, they're singing badly" at that
oh
point,
yeah,
and they're
yeah,
not. They're
yeah,
not. They're just.
yeah. They're not.
They're
Yeah,
just.
that's right.
They're developing. They're developing something. And
Yeah.
I do love the fact that and I said this to you before, you look like a rock band. You look like that kind of, you could be mean up there, and then there'll be a wonderfully happy pop element, which is wonderful.
Yeah, I think that's the area that all of us, me, Jaws, and Yutaka, overlap. Is we genuinely love pop. It's it's been that way since the beginning. There's been a singable thing about everything.
Which is wonderful. It's what pop music should really be about.
Like even in our first album, which was more rock, there were sing-along parts, you know. It's just, I know some people might lean into pop as a way to reach more of an audience or something like that. But when you have no audience, it's actually harder.
Yeah.
To,
And that's why I say that I think that you're, you know, that you are the sound of someone that's a brilliant producer as well. Because if I think about artists that have also been or are fantastic producers, they ride the gamut, and quite often one of the reasons that they do is that they are such a deep listener of music, right? Their listening of music, and I've talked about this loads of times before, because you know, as you walk down the street and you talk to people, or you talk to people online, people always say to you, oh yes, and I'm an eclectic listener of music, and then you start talking to them and you realize that actually they're not.
It's so funny that you brought this up, because I was just thinking about this the other day. Actually, they're not. Yeah.
You know, because when you start saying, what do you listen to? They then start giving you fairly narrow fields.
Very.
Of what they listen to. You know,
Yes.
I like this, or I like that, or it's like, and then you tease a bit further and say, so you listen to jazz, and then they say, oh yeah, well I like this artist. And they go to one like that everybody knows.
Yeah.
Or yeah, and country. Oh yeah, well, you know, Dolly Parton. It's like actually you've got very narrow field of taste of music, you know. And then if you then start talking to them about other people that you might have heard, or that they might like, they're like, who, and the more you hear the word who, you suddenly think, you actually have no idea about what's out there. Whereas I think when you find people that are you know, producers that are, as I say, deeply ingrained in the listening of music and the sensibilities that can be found in everything, and I'll say to you, you'll probably love, if you haven't followed him already, someone that you just to watch on Instagram or whatever would be Stephen Wilson. Now, Stephen Wilson is, or comes from, the genre line of progressive rock, right? His early band Porcupine Tree, you know, especially when they started out, were very much in that kind of progressive rock world, and he's done a lot of sort of mixing and stuff for and engineering work and post-production work for a lot of prog bands. But actually his sensibilities and his listening in music is so broad, and he's doing a whole load of things at the moment where he's taking you through his absolutely ginormous record collection, and they'll be pulling things out, and he'll go, and now this, and it will be some African group, and then it will be like, and this is ABBA, and then here's Taylor Swift, and then here's, you know, and he's like, you know, and I covered one of the songs on here, and my daughter loves this, and this is what we play in the car, and then there's this, and it's so broad, and you understand why he's highly regarded as one of the best producers in the world, right? because his ear is just so attuned to the greatness in everything.
Mm-hmm.
And he understands those, and his solo career has reflected that a lot more, in that he will, yes, he still airs towards the side of prog, but he'll do a song and it will just be a beautiful pop song, or he'll do a song and it will be just a beautiful ballad, and it will be this, that, or the other, and he's bringing in whatever he needs to make that song spark.
Yeah. Give me 1 second. Let me plug in my computer. It's dying.
Oh, the death of the computer. It happens to the best of us.
Okay.
I mean, there you go. That ding means we're there. So would you say that's really where you are? Your focus is on the song, and it's on using whatever production is needed to bring that song to the best of that song's ability to life in the best way possible. It's not. Yeah.
We've always gone song by song. So
there's no concept album. There's no oh, we're gonna do a an album where it's got this feel to it or anything like that.
I wouldn't say that's out of the question in the future. But if I had to do that now, I would probably be really bored.
Yeah. You'd wait to the right time.
Yeah.
To do that.
I think if we did it, it's just,
yeah.
Maybe we'd bang it out real fast before we have a chance to get bored. But I don't know. That's still not brewing in the near future.
No. Another producer actually that just came to mind as well that I think has got very similar sensibility is Trevor Horn.
Okay, let me write these down.
There you go.
Okay.
Who had his hit with Buggles.
Uh-huh.
Who
was the first guy?
Stephen Wilson. And then Trevor Horn, who, did the Art of Noise stuff. He was the producer with Frankie Goes to Hollywood. He did Grace Jones. In more recent times, he's done stuff with people like Robbie Williams and whatever, but then he's done the sort of proggy line as well. It's just somebody that really can capture the best element of what that artist needs, those songs need, in order to make, even if it, like, you take, as when he came into like the prog element of side of things, he was producing stuff like Yes's 90125 album, right? Now, you're probably not a Yes fan, I'm guessing, not a massive Yes fan, right? But you will know the song Owner of a Lonely Heart.
Okay.
Yeah? You know that song?
Probably.
Owner of a Lonely Heart.
Yeah.
Right. Because that song, right, has amazing production to it.
Yes.
And it's kind of a pop rock, fun, and that's what he does. He comes in and he goes, right, I'm going to take something there which is maybe not accessible, and I'm going to make this really accessible. And I'm going to bring all my kind of pop sensibilities to it and whatever. And and I think part of it's the fact he's a great bass player as well. He hones in on that bass line first, and how can I make you move with this?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That's really important.
I love anything dancey.
Do you know what? I do, and we need that, right? We
Yeah.
so need that in the world as well, right? Because there's a lot of music out there, and don't get me wrong, there's a lot of great music which, you know, it doesn't work dance wise. You can sit there and you listen to it, and you know, you could work to it because it ain't gonna, you know, interfere with that part of your brain.
Yeah.
But you know, and here's the important part: you like to play live as well, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when bands like to play live, right? Again, there is a time and a place for an audience where you just sit there and you just listen and nobody moves and you just tune into the song, etc. But you know, time is so precious these days for people, and you know, people don't have the time to get out and go and see live music like they used to sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going to go out for an evening, it's lovely to be able to dance.
Mm-hmm.
It really is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, is it the best thing in the world for you? Is it that like the best thing in the world, just seeing people let go?
Yes. I think we do a pretty good job of getting everybody out of their shell. Usually we perform for people who have never seen us live. So it's and have never heard of us. That was definitely our last tour.
Yeah.
So
Do you see that as a challenge when you're up there playing? Do you like the challenge of like? I used to love that as a being as a front man. I used to love the challenge of like, you're going to enjoy yourself.
yeah,
You will enjoy yourself.
I don't know. I don't know that I think of it as a challenge because I don't really expect it. So I'm pleasantly surprised if and when it happens, but because again, usually they don't know our music and it's just hard to sing along to something you've never heard before.
Mm.
And even though we're usually an opening band, we ask people to sing along, and this is going to be your part, and you have to shout this at this time, and yada yada, and they like during our last tour, they followed along, and they were super into it, and they did all
I
the
like that you're doing that though, because you know
yeah.
what? Not a lot of people do that. Not a lot of
Well,
people do that. And you know what? You need to do that. I mean, let's face it. If you go to church on a Sunday, right?
yeah.
I'm not about to get religious, but what I'm going to say is, if you go to church on a Sunday and they are learning a new song, they will teach you it bit by bit.
Mhm.
They will, and that's what you used to do in school assemblies
Yeah.
as well, right? You didn't.
It's built into our songwriting too, so, I mean, they're even if you hear the recording, you're gonna know, like, "Oh, okay, this is the part where the crowd is supposed to sing live,"
Exactly,
like, you can tell.
exactly.
And we don't really do as much, crowd vocals on recordings anymore as we did during our second album, but we did a little in our first too. But it's just still part of the songwriting, and we make sure those parts are, like, fun and easy to sing and enjoyable because, um, I mean, it's more about having fun than it is, like, showing off your voice or something like that, you know?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Um, and
And you
then
know, and every single one of us as well is a singer.
I
That's what you've got.
agree. That's so funny, I agree. I think each
Yeah,
and every one of us is a dancer too. I think singing
right.
and dancing is, like, just a basic part of being human.
Yeah. You need to read Tracy Fawn's book on
Okay.
singing. There you go.
Tracy Forms?
Tracy Fawn with a TH.
Thorn.
Tracy, yeah. Tracy is the lead singer of the band Everything But the Girl.
Okay.
Tracy wrote a whole book about singing,
Oh, cool.
and she's written several books, but there's one that's mainly about the act of singing. And in it, she said something really interesting, which was that's why when people go to a gig, they have more of an affinity with the singer than anybody else in the band, right? Because that's the bit that you can do.
Yeah.
Right? You might not be a great singer, but you have a voice and you can sing.
Yeah, and you should sing even if you're not the greatest singer.
Exactly.
It's like healthy for you.
It is. But it's also, sorry for all of those other musicians that aren't the singer, but it's also why the singer gets the greatest respect often, is because that's the bit you can do. You also realize where the differential is between where you are and that, right?
Gotcha. Yeah.
Everything else is kind of so you unless you are a guitarist or whatever, everything else you're so disconnected to,
Right.
that you don't know whether you could get there or not.
Right.
One day you could pick up the guitar, you might sit down for several hours and you might become a great guitarist. You know where your level is quite often with singing. And
Yeah.
if you're singing and then you hear someone absolutely nail it on the vocal, you know how good that is. And it's interesting. It's interesting that there's quite a visceral relationship between ourselves and what a singer does. You almost, and the other thing is you kind of emotionally connect with a singer on the basis of, when they've actually put themselves on the line, right? So when a singer chooses to go for that note or open up and hit that, or just gutturally bring something of their emotion out in their voice or whatever, and control it and hold it and whatever, you kind of go, you can feel that because you understand what physically that requires.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's fascinating. It's a fascinating thing.
That is fascinating.
Yeah, and it's a great book because you'll love it, because it makes
I love reading all kinds of things about singing.
It makes those kind of connections,
Yeah.
She even talks about anti-singers in there as well, which is quite an interesting thing as well. Thank you so much for coming and having such an interesting chat. I'm so glad we managed to do it.
I know, we did it.
I know, we really did. Listen, for people that haven't checked out and they're now thinking, I need to go and hear what Silent Rival sound like, because this sounds really interesting. That's the whole purpose of this. Where do you want them to go? Where would you like people to start off? Where's the song that you'd like them to start with, and then where would you like them to sort of go?
I would say start off by going to iTunes or Spotify and listen to Money on My Grave and Sick in the Head. So those are our two most recent releases, and you'll be hearing more things along that vein coming up soon. So if those two sound fun and interesting to you, then you will like what's coming up next.
And of course, you'll just love everything and go back and then start partaking in the whole back catalogue and everything else as well. And that's just the way that life is. So please do that. And remember, Christmas is a difficult time for everybody in terms of money and everything else. So if you can actually support artists by spending some money and buying their stuff as and when they release stuff, that would be brilliant. And if you can go to gigs, they're even better. And when you go to gigs, if you buy all of the merch, even better still. And because that's the way to do it,
the way to do it.
But you can still listen to it on the black dot in the corner of the room, but that doesn't actually pay the artist any money. So don't just do that. Do all of the other stuff as well.
But if you're poor and you don't have the money, just listen and share it with whoever you think might be interested.
Do that, and tell the artist that you love it if you love it, right?
Yes, tell the artist you love it if you love it. Yeah,
because that's the important thing.
that helps.
It does because even knowing that what you've done or what you've produced out there has had an impact is important, right?
Yeah.
There's a very real danger in the digital world these days that actually people consume without the feedback. Years ago, you'd know if you were touching the hearts of people as an artist because people would physically have to go and buy you a 7-inch vinyl or whatever, right? But these days, when people can just listen to it, that there's a stream that's happened, but you don't really know who, and you don't really get to
Right.
So, the little things where someone then just pops up on Instagram afterwards and said, "I've been playing your tune. It's brilliant," and
that is very appreciated.
it's completely there. Sarah, thank you so much for coming back a second time to do this.
Thanks for having me.
Apologize for the first time, folks. Please do go and support Silent Rival. Listen to their music if you do enjoy it. Please let us know. Also, I shall be adding one of those tracks. I shall keep you guessing as to which to the My Music podcast playlist, which loads of artists are now sharing. It's up to a gigantic, because it's like there's a track from everybody that's been on the show. And this is now show 350 something. So it's up to almost a gigantic 18 hours of music. Please do fill your boots. Enjoy it. There you go. Just sit in a dark room for the whole day listening to that. There you go. If that be your will. Until next time, this has been My Music. Bye for now.